All right. Good morning. Happy Friday, everybody. What is going on? It's good to see everybody today. Been a busy week, and first thing, we'll get it out in the open. We'll do it right now because I know somebody's going to say something. I brought the bow tie back. I brought it back. It was getting hate mail from you people. You guys are brutal. Jesus. What happened to being nice? And like, bring the tie back. Like, okay, well, here you go. Ask and you shall receive. I brought the bow tie back. Forget the fact that it's choking me right now, but whatever. Anyway, uh, great to be back. Back behind the mic. Hope everybody's having a good week. I got a special show lined up for you guys today. And we're gonna dive right into it right now. So met this gentleman back in January of this year. Down in Florida. Fellow veteran, a giant among men, down to earth. Just we got along great, hit it off right away, and runs a podcast called VET S.O.S. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Shawn Welsh. Shawn, what's going on, brother? How the hell are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, Adam. Yeah. My dad always joked that my final evaluation in the military, I should stand head and shoulders among his peers or above his peers.
It's so true. I remember I knew who you were. We hadn't met yet, but I knew who you were. I had seen the show. And it's always funny, like when you meet people for the first time, because when you see them online, it's usually from like, shoulders above. And sorry, folks, you're getting a little bit more of that of me today than the norm. So I walk into the room and Shawn's sitting down, and he just tell like, broad shoulders, and then he stands up, and you're like, Jesus God, like what? I'm not a small guy either, but
No.
like I look little compared to Shawn, and so but nonetheless, it's great to have you on, brother. Let's get the viewers. Let's get to know you a little bit. Why don't you tell you're new? First off, VET S.O.S and Shawn, they are new. You guys heard me talk about them for the last couple of weeks. They are now on Heroes Media Group. You can go check out all the shows. Go to heroesmediagroup.com. Shawn, let's get to know you a little bit more. Tell us a little bit about your background and your military experience.
Well, let me start by thanking you for having me on this morning. Really excited to be here, and so excited to be a part of Heroes Media Group. The more people that I meet that are part of this network, man, just absolutely amazing group of podcasters and man, people who care. I mean, really care. I mean, I was just on Tip of the Spear this week, and man, we had some awesome conversations.
Yeah.
So just fantastic. I definitely, congratulate you on what you're putting together here. This is fantastic, and we're proud to be a part of it.
Thank you, man. I love having you guys a part of it.
So I come from a military family. My dad was career Navy.
Okay.
I went to college, graduated. Some people may remember the old Sam Goody stores. I used to manage one of them way back in the day. I wanted to work for a record label, actually. And I was opening my store one morning and 9/11 happened. And I didn't have anything against the military. To me, it wasn't what I was going to do. And at that point, I decided I needed to do something a little bit more. And so I wind up, having to drop a few pounds. I'd been, living the college life, a lot of beer and just gotten married. So a lot of good food. So I had to lose a little bit of weight, but then joined the military and did 20 years in the Army as a intelligence analyst. And definitely, we'll call it a love-hate relationship. There were some great times. There were some bad times. My travel agent sucks. They I got to see exotic spots like Iraq and Afghanistan a couple times. And,
and none of them were on your tourist destinations.
No.
No.
But, all in all, I can't complain about it. I joined at 28, so I was already a little bit older. So that I would say that probably made some things harder on myself.
Yeah.
Because I already kind of knew who I was. And that doesn't necessarily jive when you first join the military, so, but it helped me mature. It helped me grow up, helped me learn how to communicate better, met friends for life, and then now you walk into a room and you instantly have a bond with a veteran.
Yeah.
I mean, that doesn't get any better than that, because I remember as a military kid growing up, you walk into a brand new classroom, you don't know anybody, and it's like it'll take you a couple of days or whatever to make a friend. And, but now, as a veteran, you have an instant conversation anytime you walk in a room almost,
Yeah.
So
do you ever feel, and I'm glad you brought that up, do you ever felt like, I always feel weird walking into a place I don't know, and then you meet a veteran, it's like, okay, all of a sudden, like, that tension when you first walked in is immediately gone, and then it's like, all right, I know I got somebody that's right there, right about with me, and if crap hits the ceiling, like, this is the person I want, like, we're fighting our way out of here, kind of a thing.
oh yeah.
Or is that just me?
Oh no, absolutely. And the funny thing is, I didn't know how big I was for years because most of the mirrors at the gym come up to here. So like, I never even got to see myself in the mirror, I was going to this one gym that had full, ceiling to floor mirrors, and I was standing next to somebody. I'm like, man, you're tiny. He goes, no, I'm not.
Yeah.
You're just very large. So that also helped me. Once I truly understood my size and realized that when I walk into a room,
Yeah.
I can be intimidating, and I didn't want to be, and even as a first sergeant, I didn't want to walk in and be intimidating. I wanted soldiers to be able to come up to me, and now it's even worse because now I got the goatee, and my wife's like, "You have to smile from time to time."
You got, yeah, it's one of those. I used to, for Ken, good morning to you, brother. Appreciate you jumping on, man. I used to, like, I was the skinny kid growing up. I got picked on all the time. I had like those bobbleheads that you get? Like, I was that, like, real skinny body, and then I was just walking around. I couldn't hold my big ass head, and now when I walk into a room, I got these, because I'm always like, I don't smile a lot, but like, once you get to know me, I'm a big teddy bear, and that's how it is. But you walk in, act like you own the place, and then, but then there's like you said, everybody's, you want people to approach, you want to be approachable, whatnot. And for guys our size, it's not always easy.
And the funny thing is I was this height in ninth grade. I stopped growing in ninth grade.
Jesus God, are you serious?
But I graduated high school this height, 180 pounds. I spent most of my Army career at 280 pounds or more.
Oh, wow.
So it's I was a shy, awkward kid, because I stood out instantly, and so it took me, it was probably kind of like Van Wilder. It was like, mid sophomore year, I came into my own, and I started developing who I was and getting comfortable with who I was.
Right.
And, and let's just say I enjoyed the college life, but, and I like to tell West Pointers about my college experience because, as they've told me more than once, we had very different experiences.
Yeah. I bet. Well, Shawn, fast forward a little bit. Well, let me back up here. So 20 years, first off, thank you for your service. And you said that your travel agent sucked. Totally understand that. But did you go anywhere, or what was the one place that you did go that you were just like, I would go back?
Germany. That was actually my first assignment. I went over there and immediately deployed. And so then my wife actually moved over there while I was deployed, getting ready to come back. So I had never even seen where we were going to live or any of that fun stuff. And so we loved Germany, and I wanted to go back so bad throughout my career because we were there as like E4, we didn't have any money, so you wanted to come back as a senior non-commissioned officer where I had a little bit of money to spend. We could do more traveling, but we feel like we made the best of the situation and got to see a lot of Germany and absolutely loved it. And the food was amazing. And I also got to spend several years in Korea towards the end of my career with my family. So, I wasn't over there as a geo bachelor, so it made it better. We could go travel, see things, and you really get into the culture, and the kids were old enough to understand stuff like that. And, so that whole thing was really cool as well. So, like I said, I mean, there were highs and lows, but, we got to see, I got to go to both places that my grandparents served. One grandfather was in World War II in Europe, in Germany, and the other one was in the Korean War in Korea. So I was able to see both sides of that, which was really, really cool. Kind of close the loop, if you will. And, because neither of my grandparents talked much about it, it's, that generation probably didn't talk much at all, but it was wonderful to be able to do that kind of stuff.
That's really cool. That's when you get to do something like that.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What was your fast forward to retirement, getting out? What was your transition like for you?
So I actually had a very good transition,
Okay.
and it's because of the podcast. The very first thing I did, because I didn't know where to start, like every other serviceman, I had no idea. I had a buddy who was about 6 months ahead of me in the process.
Mhm.
And so I just I'm going to jump on his coattails. So I started finding out what he was doing, and he was doing this Who You Know Career Summit. There's a podcast out of Texas called the Who You Know Show, and they help people with job searches and interesting ways to do things like that. So I jumped on that and went to that thing. And very first thing I did in transition has nothing to do with the military, and just gave me a completely different look at moving into the civilian world. And so I got to know the two guys that run it, and oh man, I would say about a year into my transition, 6 months into my transition, Trevor, one of the guys there, reaches out to me and says, "Hey, you got to start a podcast." I'm like, "No, I don't." It's not even on my radar, man. I don't have to do that at all. He goes, "No, man, you got to do it." I'm like, "No." And so he kept after me for a couple months. And finally, I was like, you know what? I told myself I was going to try new things in transition. I wasn't going to play it as safe as I tried to during my career, and not be as analytical as I'd been most of my life. So I was like, let's try this. So his partner, Mark, is an Air Force veteran. So Mark came on board and basically helped me co-found VET S.O.S. And he was my co-host for the first year, and really helped me get going. And through that process, though, we were talking to these organizations, and I was learning all these things, not of what not to do. Right. So I actually had a really good transition. And it's all because of the podcast and the people who are willing to tell me their stories. And it was just, it was unconventional the way it started, but in the end, I think it all worked out pretty well.
I think that's cool, because I think, I know you know this, that we often run into a lot of people that aren't prepared.
Oh yeah.
For their transition, or when they get out, they get frustrated and they say, "Oh, I had a crappy transition." And I think some of it, I got out in 2006, 2007 time frame, and back then it was that was like, it seems like a lifetime. It seems like a lifetime ago now. God, that just felt weird saying that. Yeah, mold. But I'm seeing like what we did back then to when people are making the transitions now. You see that it's got the military's gotten a little bit better. I think there's still lots of room for improvement on how we're getting people out of the military. And it's nice to see that there's guys out there that really do care. So those that are watching the active duty, those you watch the whether you're live on whatever platform, or you watch the recording throughout the weekend, if you're active duty and you're getting ready to transition, when I say getting ready, I mean, if you got 18 months or less, you need to be starting to get your ducks in a row. And I'd even go as far as to say, hey, if you got 24 months, you really need to start coming up with a game plan, because it happens like that.
Yes, it does.
And just know that there's people out there that are willing to help, and you can reach out to us. Rich, what's up, brother? Good morning. Well, and that's good. So let's talk a little bit about VET S.O.S. How you talked a little bit about how that started. What do you guys talk about? And you guys got like several shows within a show.
So we spent another week or two just trying to figure out the topic, what we're going to talk about. Mm-hmm. So decided on the military transition space because I was in transition. I was slowly learning about these organizations as I met more people, and they told me about new things to try out. And so I was like, why don't we focus on the transition space? So we did. And, Mark, who had gotten out, probably about the same time you did, his transition was much different than mine was. And all the resources that were available didn't exist in many cases. Mm-hmm. And so we basically just started focusing on that. And as things started to progress, we opened up the aperture a little bit too, so we wanted to look at things that happen during transition as well. So like PTSD starts to really, come forward a little bit, and especially as you start to lose your tribe and your sense of belonging, some of these feelings start to come up, and realizing that there's a lot of emotions that go into transition, a lot of uncertainty, a lot of decisions that have to be made. So we started looking at all these different aspects and all these different people that we could bring on the show to talk about transition. And we've truly been blessed with people who want to come on and talk, and all these great organizations, these people who just are there to help in transition, like you were just offering.
Yeah.
And, last year we, let's try a couple new things. So two of the big avenues that I've seen for transition are starting your own business or going to school. So why don't we start a show for each of those? And so we did that. And one is the Veteran Entrepreneur Spotlight, which focuses on veteran and veteran spouse entrepreneurs coming on to tell their story, their journey as an entrepreneur, share the pitfalls, the goods, the bads, the resources they use, so that that next group coming out will have a starting point. They won't have to, just start from scratch. They can actually learn about some of these things. And then the education one, focused on, we call it the Veteran Education Spotlight, and it focuses on the different organizations that are helping you pursue school, like Boots to Books or Act Now Education, but also those directors of the veteran programs on campus. And we've had some amazing schools come on and talk about what they're doing specifically on campus. And I was like, man, I'm mad now that I did my degree online, because there are so many awesome things out there. And it's so cool to hear the different creative things that schools are doing.
Yeah.
And, we've had some, little known schools. We've had your Texas A&M on, UCLA come on. We got Miami coming up, so we've had some big schools. We had some little schools. Mike Brown at Villanova was our first guest, and he's like, I'm going to call him the standard bearer. A lot of people try to, emulate the stuff he's doing at Villanova. And that was special to me because my dad was a Villanova grad. So, got to close that circle too. And I was able to interview University of West Florida, where I graduated. We've had Penn State on, where I've graduated from. I'm still trying to get Oklahoma. So if anybody from Oklahoma is listening, we need to get you on the show. But, it's just I love that show because I'm a big fan of education.
Yeah.
And I love the college atmosphere. Everybody focuses on the cost. I got it. The cost of college has gotten ridiculous, but there's so much you learn at school other than the book stuff. The networking, the friends for life, the, different organizations you can get into, and you really can start to find yourself. And there's just so much more that goes into college. And, I wish people would look a little bit more at that. But also, I completely agree that we need a lot of people to go to these trade schools too.
And I've been a big proponent over the last couple of years of the trade schools.
Oh yeah.
I in a previous life, I worked post-secondary education. I worked at the University of Phoenix. I'll just say it there. And I did that for 5 years. A recruiter. We recruited people to go to schools there. I graduated with an online degree, and at that time you couldn't use your GI Bill. So it wasn't an option. That's how far back that goes. Now it's a different story. Do I wish I would have gone on a campus? Part of me does a little bit, but I was a single parent too, so it was certainly good that I did not, because I probably wouldn't be sitting here today if I did.
The good thing,
you all know what I'm talking about. But I think the fact that I look at education like this now is these colleges have just gotten it's absolutely insane, the cost of for an education nowadays. And is it important? Yes. And this was what I'm about to say is an old statistic, but back in the day, 90% of the people that got a college degree ended up not ever going into the workforce using that particular degree. That said, I always was like, if I was to redo anything, I'd go to like welding or be a plumber or something like that. Great money, and those are job security. And those. That being said, I am glad that I did get my college degree, and I did learn a lot of things while I was in there. And I think it's great to see how schools are opening up more towards the veteran side of things now, because it certainly wasn't always that way back in the early 2000s.
The good thing though is we're also starting to be able to get some trade schools coming on.
Yeah.
So like we had Ding King, which is based out of, I think it's California.
Mhm.
They do auto renovation, or it's not just repair. I think it's more of the custom work.
Yep.
But they have a whole veteran program. It's fantastic.
That's great.
We had Full Sail University come on, which focuses
Great
on
school.
music production and
Yep.
video film and
Video
stuff like that.
production stuff. They got a great 1-year program that
Yep.
actually one of our videographers is going through right now.
Mhm.
And the equipment that they
yeah.
send you, holy, like
Yes.
it is
The tech package.
Yeah, it is not like you get some nice stuff, and then you get to keep it at the end of the
Yeah.
program. Great.
We just had the Maritime Institute come on, so all those Navy guys that spent all the time, all the Coast Guard guys that spent all the time on ships, a perfect transition location right there. So it's just fantastic, different stuff that we're finding and having on. And, we wanted to focus on that. And I think it's been really cool. And then we just launched The Scoop, which is we're calling it our variety show.
Yeah.
It's an hour long. It happens on Saturday mornings, and Kingsley Scott's hosting that. Just brings all this energy to it. Been working in the transition space for a couple of years. Loves helping people out. And we really started with interviewing like authors who wrote books in transition. And now we've sort of broadened that up to like veteran authors, and then any kind of organization that has to, maybe it doesn't quite fit the transition, but still kind of applies to transition. And we're looking to do some, panel discussions, things like that. So, there's a lot of opportunity we have with that show. And, so it's been a great journey, and it's hard to believe that we're at where we are now compared to where we started, with the possibility of a couple more shows still coming. And of course, we're in the process of converting to a nonprofit as well.
Yeah, I love that. And we're going to have you back on once that is complete, so people can get involved with that, because I have a feeling that that's going to be huge there. So I love it, folks. You can check out VET S.O.S right now on Heroes Media Group. Go to heroesmediagroup.com, go to the podcast page. You'll see their page, and it has all of their contacts and the shows right there. Shawn, let's dive in. Let's dive into a couple of headline news, and then we'll dive into the shows, what the shows did this week. T-Dog.
By the way, I do feel underdressed without a bow tie on. So I didn't get the memo.
Yes. No, this was a last minute thing. And somebody texted me this morning and said, "Hey, are you going to wear the bow tie today?" And I was like, "Yeah, I just had a t-shirt on. I was going to, and I've been on the road for 7.5 weeks. I left the bow tie at home, and people were like, "Where's your bow tie? Where's your bow tie?" It started off as a joke. So here's a funny thing. And I got some new people that are on right now. The bow tie, the story behind it. This was from my son. He had a full draped red, white, and blue like suit, American like flag suit that he wore for the 4th of July one year, and he left this on. And I thought, oh, you know what? I'm just gonna jump on and do the show. And he's like, "Dad, you don't have the balls to do that." And I was like, "Oh,
you don't know me very well."
Okay. All right. I'm not going to let the kid call me out, right? So I put it on, and everybody was just like, "What is up with the bow tie?" And I was just like, "Oh, this is going to end up turning into something." Here we are.
Love it.
So, all right, diving into some news topics. Again, you guys know how I do this. It's usually when I'm at the gym in the mornings or whatnot, I see stuff, and it's like, interesting. So the first one up, DMV offices closed. Oh God, I got so excited when I heard this. I was like, yes! Until further notice. Aimed statewide network security incident, and then it just went downhill from there. The state of Nevada DMV posted an update on their social media Tuesday afternoon that the offices would remain closed until further notice. All canceled appointments during the statewide network outage would be honored as walk-ins for a 2-week period following their reopenings. And that was all they said. They did not give any issues of what happened. There was some type of security breach. They did not get into any more detail than that. I don't know about you guys, But when it comes to DMV, I see those 3 letters put together like that. My blood pressure immediately goes up. Like, oh, you got to go down to the DMV. You might as well plan. You take your tent, get some MREs or your little pocket, little thing, because you're going to be camping there for a while. And it's like that in every state that I've lived in. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah.
Shawn, how do you what's your experience with the DMV?
Okay, so I got 2 quick stories.
Oh, yeah.
I've always been a Florida resident. You
Okay.
know, from the time I was born in Puerto Rico at the Navy Hospital, but my dad was I've been a Florida resident my whole life. Hardly lived in the state, but I've always been a Florida resident. I go to Afghanistan, and while I'm there, they come out with the Real ID Act.
Oh, yeah.
And then they also, Puerto Rico did away with all birth certificates prior to like 2001 because of counterfeiting. So here I am without a birth certificate. With a top secret clearance, which I found hysterical.
This is getting better.
Yeah. So I come back, my license had expired. So, you know, my parents still live in Florida. So I went and stayed with them, went to the DMV, and they're like, yeah, we need, you know, proof of birth. I'm like, hello.
Yeah.
But they,
ta-da.
Yeah. So he's like, well, do you have a birth certificate? I said, I have one, but he goes, this isn't valid. I said, I know it's not valid. Here's the consular birth form, but yeah, I understand this is not valid. He goes, okay, well, you need to have a birth certificate. I said, well, I don't have one right now. I just came back from Afghanistan. I showed him my old Florida license. I showed him my carry and conceal permit for the state of Florida. I showed him, you know, bills from my parents' house. I had everything. And so this guy would not let me pass the check-in counter. And he goes, well, who lives at this address? I said, my parents. He goes, was there anybody home? I was like, are you telling me at 35, I got to have my mommy call you to give me permission to get a license? And mind you, I'm renewing an expired Florida license. So it's not like, you know, it's some crazy thing. So finally, this guy lets me through, and they're like, you need to get a new birth. I said, yeah, I know. I just came back. I mean, what do you want? So I get through that whole process. I moved to Texas, and my job required a CDL. So they made me change to a Texas license to get a CDL. So then next time I go to Florida, I'm going to convert it back to a Florida license. So I go into the DMV there, a different DMV on the next county over. And they're like, well, you're not a Florida resident. I said, I've been a Florida resident my whole life. And this time I brought my ERB, my enlisted, you know, record and everything. It says Florida resident, everything. I had everything. Like you're according to DMV, you're a Texas resident. I said, according to me, you're an idiot. I've never been a Texas resident other than I lived there because the military moved me there. You know, and it's like I have had nothing but headaches in Florida when it comes to getting a license. I just waited until I retired, and I'm like, I'll just wait, and you know, we'll do it all then. And that was real easy once I retired. But man, what a headache!
I'll say this: the one, like I was trying to get one for Junior because we're giving him residency up in the state of Wisconsin. That was a headache. Mm-hmm. I did one when I got my license. I don't even know where it's at right now, but it's my Arizona license. Like you go in once, and it's good for like 65 years. And everybody looks at. I love it when people look at my Arizona license, and they always look. Wait, it doesn't expire until like 21 or whatever. You're just like you're like going to be 150. Like, yeah, I know. Yeah.
Don't they give you a carry and conceal permit too with it? Just throw it in as a bonus.
Yeah. Well, in that state. Gene, what's up, brother? Good morning to you. Appreciate you jumping on. Next one. DC crime plummets after President Trump orders federal takeover. Mayor Bowser admits extreme reduction. Yeah, this has been in the news around, at least up and down the East Coast here, quite a bit. Everybody's seen that the National Guard is roaming the streets of Washington, D.C. President Trump's decision to place the city law enforcement under federal control, and Mayor Bowser, who previously resisted the move, has acknowledged an extreme reduction in violent crimes. When you say what's the extreme reduction, Adam, what are the numbers? It's a great question. Let's go over some of those. According to city data, carjackings have dropped 87%. I didn't mean to laugh. Sorry. falling from 31 cases in August of 2024 to just 4 this year. Violent crime overall has declined to 45%, while homicides are down 38%. Reports of sexual abuse have fallen by 44%. Robberies down 62%. And burglaries down nearly 50%. Property crime overall is down 12%, and auto thefts have decreased by 35%. Federal authorities also reported that a 20% increase in arrests and a 12% rise in firearm recoveries. Was this a good move? Some people have really, I've seen online, have really kind of some pushback on having the guard walking around federalized, Roman streets of DC. I got mixed feelings on it. Is it one of those where it's like, I don't want this to be the norm in all the cities around the country, but at the same time, DC is kind of an exception to the rule with all the crime that has been going on there. But there's crime everywhere else. Like, you look at cities like Chicago and stuff like that. Like, Shawn, you got any input on this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it's sad that we have to, honestly.
Right.
It's time for the politicians to stop acting like, teenage kids in middle school and start actually working for the benefit of the people. Because you're there to serve us.
Yeah.
Stop bickering, name calling, all this other stuff. It's gotten so ridiculous now that it doesn't matter what party you are in. I could say one idea and you hate it because I'm in a different party. Right. 2 years from now, you say the same idea because your party's in power. All of a sudden, it's a great idea, but now I hate it. And it's like, you guys know we have video, right? Well, we saw you guys say this stuff. So it's stop.
It's such a divide, and I'm glad you brought that up. I really, I'm a big proponent of. I think the states need to be in control. That's how it was written initially, right? But here's the other thing: like, all these states go to the federal government, like, we need money for this, we need money for that. I don't necessarily have a problem with that. But then you're going to do, if you want the money, then you're going to have to do the certain rules that you need to abide by then. And they're like, well, we don't want that. We just give us the money. Kind of, I don't know. It's one of those things Gene, it's this important. Oh, let me put this up here. DC is not a state, different set of rules.
Yeah, that defund movement was idiotic, in my opinion. I think politicians have forgotten that their main priority is the people and taking care of us, and making sure that the populace is safe, and I don't stop lining your pocketbooks and everything else you're doing, unfortunately, I don't think it'll get fixed until we do stuff like term limits. And, honestly, I'd love to see it to where a bill can only be one thing. You can't have 1,000-page bill. You have a 1 or 2 page bill that outlines one thing.
God, would that be something great? Oh my God.
It's not
that would be amazing. Like, here we want to bring this bill to just have it, voted on to get passed. There's only 2 pages here. Yeah.
It's one thing.
That's how it should be.
You like it or you don't like it. Enough of the pork.
1,000 pages and somewhere hidden in the fine print. Oh God, that would be great. Jesus, that would be. Please let that happen.
I don't know how we've gotten to where we are. It's ridiculous over the years, and I don't know how we get back to any kind of normalcy and whatever normalcy may be. But,
yeah, what's normal? I think there's different definitions of normal, but term limits and stuff like that. I would love to see that in my lifetime.
A great start to me would be let's just learn to communicate again. We can disagree, and that's fine.
Oh God, some of the best conversations that I absolutely love is talking with somebody that doesn't necessarily have the same political affiliation and I'm an equal opportunist. You guys have heard me say this before. I hate all politicians. It's we're a NASCAR. Robin Williams said it best back in the day. Politicians should wear NASCAR suits.
Yep.
so you can understand why they say what they say. I think it's a great idea.
Oh yeah.
It won't
100%.
happen because then it's I don't know, whatever. Anyway, moving on. Jesus, God, that'd be something else. Put a bill in like two pieces of paper. My God, that's
you do front and back,
right. For all you environmentalists out there, we do the front and back just to say. Sorry, but Cracker Barrel admits a misstep in rebranding after conservative backlash. You don't say. I said this last week. Listen, and everybody, I got some of you jumped my backside. Like, why are you so upset about a rebranding? It wasn't so much about the well, it was a little bit. Here's the thing. You guys know I travel a lot, and one of the things that I thought about Cracker, I liked walking into a Cracker Barrel and seeing like the old saws from like the 1920s and like the old it's the nostalgia and the country store stuff, like the stuff that you don't see that I still saw a little bit growing up in northern Wisconsin. Like you still had some of those places when I was a kid. And you see a lot of that stuff even in some places down in the South. And I know that when I'm on the road, doesn't matter anywhere in the country, if I can't figure out where to eat, if I see a Cracker Barrel, I know I can go there and get a good meal, a decent meal. And then when you walk in, it's always like you get to see this stuff, blah, 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 blah. And then I always grab some candy that I don't need on the way out. So it's like, so when they took they wanted to change the logo just a word, and then but here's the thing, this is what I saw. Cracker Barrel, which has historically maintained a strong base in the South and among faith-based family-oriented patrons, now face challenges of restoring trust while moving forward with its modernization plans. So the headline was great, but it's not really changing anything. And that's what I got from it. So those of you that are Cracker Barrel fans, yeah, I'm at a loss for words.
There's one thing that you and I clearly disagree on, that is the quality of their food. The last 2 times I've been in a Cracker Barrel, I have been just disgusted with the food.
See, I was just at one with Adam Peters down in Clearwater, and food was great. It came out like it was. Now, I had a bad Cracker Barrel meal? I don't think I have. I think I've gotten that lucky. And that's and here's the thing. I am not a big boxed franchise type. I'd like to find the small mom and pop hole in the wall restaurants. I would prefer that.
Yeah,
quite honestly. But again, Cracker Barrel it was one of those things where it's like,
I do 100% agree with you that I always loved going into the store part. That was always really cool to see stuff like that. And, it's nostalgia. My dad grew up in the country, and, so all that kind of stuff was really cool to see. I've been, like I said, I've been disappointed with the food the last couple of times I've gone. But I heard this, I think it was Fox News that stated this. If it's not broke, why fix it? It's like, I didn't hear anybody complaining about the logo. It's like, let's just do something radical out of nowhere.
Yeah. I'll say this about the logo. The internet did not disappoint with the memes the last 2 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
Ken says the quality of food has gone down in the recent years. He agrees. See, then I've gotten lucky. See, you guys are making me like, now I'm scared to walk back into a Cracker Barrel.
You know what's funny is I think I know the Cracker Barrel you went to, and I want to say that's the last time I had a good meal. So it might be that Cracker Barrel.
Yeah, it was. I couldn't even tell you what.
But that down near Clearwater.
It was. I was like a mile from the OCC place when. Me and Peters were down there.
Because now granted, this has been 10 plus years since I've been to that one, but I would say that's probably the last good Cracker Barrel meal I had.
Yeah,
I had one in southern Georgia. See,
and And it's, I don't know, maybe it's one of those things like Georgia, you probably don't want to go to Cracker Barrel. You want to go get like some Southern food down there. Anyway, we're going to start talking about food. I'm going to go off on a tangent. Everybody knows I'm a foodie. Got to keep this petite frame of mind. Next up, Waymo's self-driving cars hit New York City streets under strict government watch. Listen, these Waymo cars, you guys have heard me talk about them before. I talked about it a couple of weeks ago when I was down in Austin, Texas. One of them got stuck in a parking lot. It was trying to turn around because it was too close to the building. It was hilarious to watch. They've had these in Phoenix, Arizona for, oh God, probably 10 years now. And in Phoenix and in Austin, you can, they're Ubers, but there's no driver. It's all autonomous vehicles. I have not taken one personally, but here's the thing. And this is why I think this is funny that they're doing this in New York. The autonomous vehicle first permit to test self-driving cars on public roads in New York City. What could possibly go wrong? The company is authorized to operate up to 8 vehicles in Manhattan and downtown Brooklyn.
Oh, Lord.
It just gets funnier, people. Making the sanctioned deployment of autonomous cars in the most densely populated city in the country. New York's permits demands that each vehicle include a trained human safety driver at all times. So they're testing this right now. So there's got to be a human in the vehicle that's trained. And the testing programs requires close condition with city agencies and first responders. These restrictions follow state laws that prohibit fully driverless operation and are among the most strictest in the nation. The one thing I would say New York's got right is that their driving laws are they're up there. I don't think this is going to end well. I think it's going to be funny. You're going to see this in the news, which is why I brought this up. Yeah, it's Flagstaff and Prescott Valley are horrible. Do they have them down there too, Ken? Jobs and pay well. Yeah, it's one of those. And you guys know my thought on AI and autonomous vehicles. I mean, what could possibly, I said this, and I'll repeat this. A couple weeks ago, when I was coming down prior to me getting to Florida, I spent the night up in Fort Rucker or whatever they call it now. Down there, I got a buddy of mine who's an instructor pilot, and we were talking about autonomous, vehicles and the helicopters and stuff. And he said they will never allow, in his opinion, they'll never allow them for like Blackhawks to come in, or whatever they're calling them, Blackhawks coming in without pilots to pick up personnel. They'll do autonomous vehicles with like dropping supplies and stuff like that, but you won't see any like airborne operations with autonomous because there's too much of a risk there, which is interesting. I think in and of itself. So, are you a fan of autonomous vehicles, Shawn?
So, you have managed to hit quite a few topics this morning that I am quite opinionated on.
I love it.
First, I'll say I just spent a week in New York City. We never left 6 square miles, and it would take you 45 minutes to get anywhere.
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen on the internet, like when they show pictures of India and driving, it just looks like pure chaos, but it works. That's kind of what New York City's like with the cab drivers. Like they have their own system.
Yeah.
And it works, but it's not going to work with autonomous vehicles because you can't predict what they're going to do. I hate the idea of autonomous vehicles. I love technology, AI, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But when I was in high school, they started doing away with driver's training. And I think we're now seeing a generation removed from that. So we're seeing a bunch of people be taught to drive by people who never learned to drive to begin with. And you start seeing stuff like people stopping on the interstate because they're about to miss your exit. Are you out of your damn mind? Like And I've seen people cause wrecks and then they pull off and they just disappear. Meanwhile, you have potential fatalities because you were a moron on the interstate. And the stuff you see in cars these days, and now, I mean, the number of people that are just on their cell phone, and it's like, let's go back to learning how to drive. I just personally, I hate the idea of driverless cars because I think a lot can go wrong, and you have to be able to react to all the other stupid things going on out there.
You and I are certainly in an agreement with that, my friends. All right, last one I got, and then we'll get into the shows here. All 14 injured children expected to survive after shooter at Minneapolis Catholic school kills 2. A shooter opened fire on Wednesday morning during Mass at a Minneapolis Catholic school, killing 2 children and injuring 17 other people before dying by suicide, said officials. Minneapolis Police Chief O'Hara said the shooter was armed with a rifle, a shotgun, and a pistol, and quote, and a motive has not been identified, end quote. Really? No motive, huh? Okay. Rifle, shotgun, pistol. I could probably think of a motive. He said that the shooter, 23-year-old Robin Westman, did not have an extensive known criminal history, acted alone, and legally purchases the weapon. Federal officials referred to Westman as a transgender, and the mayor said, "Oh, this is a disgrace to our transgender community. Westman's gender identity is not clear." In 2020, a judge approved the petition signed by Westman's mother asking for a name change from Robert to Robin, saying that the petitioner identifies as a female and wants the name to reflect identification. Does that mean anything in this? No. I think that this is, why do I bring this up? Because it was a horrific incident that happened. Well, that's not why I brought it up, but it was one of the things that happened this week. You can say thoughts and prayers to the families of those out there. I bring this up because take note of where it happened, and then let's wait, I'm going to say a week, and see if we see anything else like this in the news or what becomes of this particular story this time next week. That's all I'm going to say about that for now. That said, I want to be respectful of everybody's time. So I'm going to do this. Those of you that are out there that are watching, first off, welcome and thank you. If you have, we want to hear hero stories. All right. We're doing a series on heroes here at Heroes Media Group. Hello. Let's talk about our community heroes, right? Let's talk about our community heroes out there. If you have somebody in your community that's doing some fantastic stuff, could be your neighbor, it could be a police officer, could be a teacher, it could be whatever, it could be a kid, maybe a kid. We want to hear those stories. Let's highlight those. Let's highlight the hero stories in your community. Send us an email at media@heroesmediagroup.com. And if I would have had this ready, I would have had it up there on the little ticker, but I don't. So, well, there it is. Right there at the bottom of it, media@heroesmediagrp.com. Send us an email. I'm going to dive into some of the stories, or excuse me, what the shows did this week. We got some new shows on the network. Unbreakable Storm podcast coming next week. Women of War also coming next week. She Bird the Vibe, that launches the second week of September. So we are growing here as a family at HMG, and we just signed on 2 more shows that are going to be starting in October. And to kick it off for this week and what happened this week for the shows, we got our man Shawn right here with VET S.O.S podcast. Shawn, take it away. What did you guys talk about this week on your guys' shows?
Before I jump into that, man, I applaud you for the heroes effort. What happened to the days where we revered, our servants, our public servants, the people who are out there protecting us, teaching, we've let politics sink into this. And I got, every group has bad apples, right? The military, police, fire, whatever, everybody does. But as a whole, the work they do cannot be understated.
Right. Yeah. When I started this, this is the second media company that I've had. And when I went to Heroes Media Group, it was and I've told you this before, but those are David, good morning. Those that are out there that watch this, maybe you're new to Heroes Media Group. We don't really know what our mission is. The purpose behind this was I wanted to create a positive atmosphere. Yes, I'm going to cover stories like the last one that I just covered. And I don't do that every week, but it happens. But we need to start highlighting the positive stories that are out there. I had a investment banker wanted to throw some money at us several years ago and says, we need to change how you're delivering stuff because positivity isn't sexy. It doesn't sell. I told him to take his money, shove it up his ass, and pound sand. If this takes me another 20 years to get to where I think mentally where we can be, I think what's going to happen, I'm crazy enough to think that we're going to change the world. People like Shawn, people like Adam Peters, people that are watching here, Ken, Dave, Gene with the Double S podcast. We're crazy enough to think that we can change the world, and we've already started. So in 10, 15, 20 years down the road, when the world is more of a positive place, people are going to look at the core of that, and they're going to see us and T-Dog, 19 for they're going to see guys like us and that kind of started this movement to share more positive stories, because I believe that there are more positive stories out there than the bureaucratic negativity bullshit that we see on what is called mainstream media, which is nothing more than a propaganda machine. And that's all I'll say to that. So Shawn, take away. What do you guys got this week?
So we started off Tuesday on our transition show with Ryan Woodruff from Clear Path for Veterans. His story is amazing. The struggles he went through to where he is now, and how the service dogs have really helped him, and how he's really embracing this community. And I love talking to people working with service dogs. I mean, you're talking about a great community in itself.
Yeah.
Then on Wednesday, we had Renee Jones Hudson. Beyond the Uniform is her company. It was the Entrepreneur Show. She came on, and just once again, what she's doing for especially female veterans is just absolutely amazing. Her passion, man, you can hear it in the story. It's just absolutely great. And tomorrow, possibly my favorite episode for the Scoop that Kingsley has done so far with David Kiwi Magi, I think is his name, but he goes by Kiwi. He's coach, entrepreneur, relationship expert. Man, the energy the two of them have on the show together is just fantastic. Definitely something worth watching. You're going to laugh. You're really going to be impressed with what they talk about. We unfortunately didn't have a show this week for the education one. Been a little slow on those bookings, but we'll be back next week with another one. And you started the show by talking about how big I was, or I am. Yeah. Next week, I'm re-airing my VFW interview, and Andrew from Parade Deck got these tiny little chairs to sit in, so you can truly see my size. It looks like Gulliver from Gulliver's Travels sitting in this tiny chair. It's absolutely ridiculous to look at.
You don't want to miss that one, folks. That's definitely one you want to turn
into. And then you just mentioned Gene. I'm going to be on his show on Monday. Looking forward to it.
Oh, I love it. That's awesome. And Gene does a couple shows a week. Sunday, Mondays. You got you talked earlier about Tip of the Spear. So Tip of the Spear from Homefront Sit Rep. Tip of the Spear is a special series that they do the last Wednesday of every month. And I got to creep in and just to see a little bit of the show Wednesday night. I love it. It's a round table, and David's done such an amazing job putting this together over the last year. Again, folks, and we're coming up on time. I won't keep this under an hour because I know everybody's got stuff to do. We got a long weekend coming up. But I do want to talk about a couple more podcasts real quick. Double S podcast, as you mentioned, with our buddy Gene Campbell over there. He's got a live show going Sunday night, 9 p.m. Eastern time, 8 Central, 6 p.m. Pacific time. He's talking with Label 22 Records. It's a nonprofit recording company founded by veterans for veterans, and they're recording artists. They're featuring guys like Chris Turner, a good friend of ours, Sal Gonzalez, Stephen Cochran's been a longtime friend, CEO of Label 22, and the founder of Roman's Warrior Foundation, Mr. Brian Warman's. Stand up, gentlemen. There will be awesome. So looking forward to that. Oh, there's Gene. What does he say? Gene. Recording Monday night, it'll air Sunday night. Double. Okay, perfect. Good. Love it. I
Yeah,
love
he
it.
comes on after my bedtime.
I love. I love it. Disgruntled PM's got some good stuff coming up. Trevor got some good stuff this week. JJ Hardy from Speak Up, Show Up, Lead podcast. And I'll put all of this stuff with more details in the show notes or in the comments after the show. Faith Valor Growth has got a new episode out this week. Dominic and his wife Chanel, I love these two. They're great people. They're talking about VA loans and how Chanel herself supports particularly women veterans and how they purchase houses and stuff like that. Great episode. Strategic Veteran with our buddy Adam Peters. Check that out. Senior Living Guide. I know my guys are on, so they're like, oh, here it comes with the jokes. No jokes this week, gentlemen. This episode, they dive into critical issue with food insecurity, and they talk about how food is accessible or not as accessible to like urban areas, like rural Nevada, places in Nevada, urban Detroit and stuff like that. It was very eye-opening. It's called Senior Living Guide. Go check that out. Patriots Inside the Wire, Arms Room Show. This week they're discussing how to select a concealed carry setup, handgun holster, and kind of retaining it and how to keep it. It's all one system. It's an entire system. It's a great show. Check it out. Arms Room Show. Misfit Nation podcast. Rich sits down with Derek Funk, a 13-year U.S. Army veteran and longtime contractor who served an additional 13 years on the intelligence missions side of things. Go check that out. Misfit Nation Label Free podcast. And of course, we got you 6 at 6, People's Patriot Project. They're on Sunday night, 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. Other side of the firewall, Pushing Back Chaos. Want to welcome them back after a bit of a hiatus this week. Chris sits down with Hugh Val, friend, founder, and lead facilitator of Mustang Medicine. Check it out. So you find all the shows, heroesmediagroup.com. Shout out to our beloved sponsors of the network, From the Farm. Listen, if you guys want food sovereignty, you guys have heard me say this before. I buy from local ranchers and farmers. In fact, we just getting ready to buy another half a cow. We do it every year. Best meat you'll ever have. Find out what you need to know. If you want to find out who a local rancher is in your area, go to fromthefarm.com. Find that out. My Tax Fella, Forget Genetics, another veteran-owned company. My Tax Fella handles all your bookkeeping, taxes, does things right. Love it. Jim Neary's Bait and Tackle down in southern Pennsylvania. Great organization, veteran-owned. Fin Tactical, Freedom People, and Mr. Ryan Williams from the other side of the firewall. Absolutely love this. Check this out. You're talking about his military career, corporate world. He sends the link on LinkedIn. Go check him out. Ryan just came out with a book. Let me give that Ryan a shout out here because I got this in the mail while I was gone. He wrote a book called The Other Side of the Firewall. And a lot of us, me in particular, and I say a lot of us isn't me, I have known nothing about. I could turn the computer on. I have a hard time just making sure this is set up right every week. What are you doing with your cybersecurity stuff and what you need to know? Check this book out. It's an easy read. I absolutely love it. Ryan's done a fantastic job. You can get this on Amazon, Other Side of the Firewall. Check it out. Shawn, I appreciate you, brother, for jumping on with us today, man. Happy to have you guys part of the HMG Network and looking forward to many, many meetings face-to-face and as well as any other chaos you and I can come up with in the near future, my friend.
Absolutely, man. I'm so happy that we were able to make this happen and join the Heroes Media Group. I think it's going to be great for us, and we're looking forward to supporting and seeing where this can go.
I love it. All right, folks, that's it. I got about 30 seconds left, so I'll say this in closing. Have a great weekend. Be safe. Get off this crap. Don't get the 45-degree syndrome, all right? Get off the computers. Get outside because before you know it, it's going to get cold. So with that being said, God bless you. God bless America. Same time next week. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.